Something's in the water, people. I think it's called stupid. Not fluoride, stupid.
You may be more right than you know.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, I'm still right.
Oh, yeah, really. And we are going to see if we have purged all those gremlins out of the studio. So far, so good. Welcome to the show, folks. That's right. You are listening to the American Adversaries Drive Time, Prime Time show, coming to you live on AM 660, The Answer, from the Mercury Free Broadcasting Studios. Don't forget, for the very best in Mercury Free general dentistry and health-centered dentistry, call my dentist, Dr. James E. Hardy, at 407-678-3399. And, of course, you know our phone number if you want to be a part of the show. In case you don't, it's 407-774-8255. I am Christopher Hart, joined in the studio today by the chairman of the board, Mike McBath. Mike, welcome back.
Great to be here. I just got back from Booth Bay. I have to tell you a little story a little bit later about the botanical gardens where they have fairy flowers. And I won't touch on that until we get a little bit deeper in the show.
Oy vey.
Oh, boy. And that's Lucas Paris, who's got the Periscope up and running tonight. And tell them what channel they can find.
That would be American Adversaries TV on YouTube.com. Check us out.
Unless you live in Germany.
Hey, that was only that one video, and that's because I mentioned Germany.
Did you know we got blocked in Germany on YouTube?
Really?
Yeah.
For mentioning Germany.
Because last week, you were out Thursday because you were at you were up in Maine there, checking out the lilies and the flowers.
Yep.
We did a Thursday show. Toward the end of the show, I had found a story where kids, in like elementary schools, middle schools, and even high schools, have started in some schools their own black market in the school, bringing in sugar and salt and pepper. Did you see that?
That was a good article.
Yeah,
Very
we were doing
interesting.
that. And somehow we got that into talking about the Confederate flag, and we mentioned that this is our history, and whether we like it or not, it's our history. And one of us, I think Lucas, brought up the fact that in Germany they still have some of the concentration camps there.
Right.
And they
obviously
exactly so that people don't forget their past, whether it's good or bad. And evidently that upset Angela Merkel or somebody over there, because somebody took notice. And
wow.
I don't know if we don't know if it was YouTube or at somebody's request.
Maybe you think you were picked up by satellite?
We're on the internet. We can be picked up from anywhere.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Maybe a drone. I did hear a buzzing around the place earlier today.
I've been followed by white vans. No.
It's nice to know that we're noticed, though, right?
It is. That's very complimentary. Very much so.
All right, we'll get more deeply into those sort of subject matter here shortly. Yeah, Chris Christie's in. Trump is out, at least at NBC. We'll be talking about that. The banks are out of business, at least right now in Greece. We'll be talking about that. They may be going out of business in Puerto Rico. We'll be talking about that. We got a full slate of things to talk about, but real quickly first, you may have heard during one of the news breaks that the new 24-hour waiting period for abortions in Florida has been put on hold. Here they go again by a court. There have been several groups, including, I believe, the ACLU, who have contested the constitutionality of this law using the same argument, very same argument that the gay community just used to get same-sex marriage approved, and that is that it's covered by the 14th Amendment and something called the right of privacy, although you do not find that word anywhere in the 14th Amendment. Nowhere does it guarantee privacy. But that's what they're claiming. The courts have agreed to step in and block that law from taking effect. It would have gone into effect tomorrow. And it would have just, allowed people like John Barros, who I've had on the show before. He'll be in Monday. And John is one of these folks who stands out in front of abortion clinics and tries to get the girls and the women to see other alternatives.
Right.
And you might think that a man might not be successful at doing that, but he is quite successful at doing that. This would have given him a little bit more time to work with some of these women. And but once again, the courts, here they go again. They have stepped in and said, no, we can't let the people of Florida have what they want. We're going to have to put this on hold at least for now, which means that law will not go into effect indefinitely, because I can see this going all the way to the Supreme Court.
Right.
You know,
you'll have Roberts jump in somewhere. Roberts Obamacare, right? I mean, they ought to name it Roberts Obamacare. I mean, he really did as much as anybody. I don't think he lied like the president did, nor did he lie like Pelosi. But, you know, realistically, did anybody expect anything that much different? Because he had to confirm his position.
From before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we look at these people in the Supreme Court, these are just people. These are not gods. And you sometimes wonder, you know, what goes on in Washington? I just wonder if there's blackmail going on or anything of that nature, because it's such an irrational act. And realistically, think about this, Chris. There's 320 million people in the United States, right? And now Obama always says, well, I helped 8 million, I helped 8 million. How'd the other 312 million make out?
Right.
Do you want to see my bill, which is up over 80%? Do you want to see the other people's bill? And also, on those 8 million you helped out, do you want to see their deductibles, Mr. Genius?
How much did he really help them out?
In all seriousness, he didn't help them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what we could have done with all the money we lost on this?
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, boy.
You know, the Obamacare decision the other day, even though it is disappointing, it does, as you say, it follows in line with the reasoning that John Roberts gave in his first opinion, and that basically is, look, you know, we're not here to straighten up your legislative messes. And so in making that argument, he left it to the Obama administration to basically get what they wanted. And it's disappointing, but you know, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Nostradamus was actually here for a while, and when I was in college studying the Supreme Court, you know, this actually isn't unusual for the Supreme Court to be actually, even though they're supposed to be above and not touched by politics, they oftentimes find themselves right in the middle of it. They read the newspapers too, and so I argued back when I was going to college, this early 80s, that Supreme Court, well, first of all, they never should have had this power to begin with, and we need to take it away from them.
Right.
Second of all, right. You know, we may make mistakes, legislatively speaking, but we can go back and correct them. You see, this can't be corrected. What they did with the gay marriage thing cannot be corrected, short of a constitutional amendment, which in this atmosphere ain't about to happen.
Well, you know, when you read their logic, though, I'm actually thinking about maybe marrying a tree. No, I'm serious about that. Because when you look at the logic and the way they write these things up, and again, we got to get term limits on these people that are in the Supreme Court.
Well, Ted Cruz had an interesting idea that he proposed on Michael Medved's show yesterday. And he may have proposed it elsewhere before, but that's when I heard it. That, you know how we do it in the state of Florida here, is that every time we have a 4-year election, maybe even 2 years, but you have these retained votes.
Right.
Should this justice be retained on the Supreme Court? He suggested we do the same thing for the justices on the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court. It would, you know, open the door to them being more subject to politics, but like I said, they are already subject to politics.
Or just, couldn't you have them appointed? The reason I just say that is, but you're just done in 10 years. You know, you just can never be reelected again.
Right.
So hopefully.
Well, that's perhaps even a better idea.
Because we want to keep the politics out, which will never be kept out, because they intermix in Washington D.C., and that's the whole problem with the whole mess up there.
Yeah. Well, and see, has been my point, is that we got borked. Okay.
There's that word again.
Yeah, there's that word again. I started using it Sunday night, and they haven't taken me off the air yet. We got borked, and what I mean by that is Robert Bork was Ronald Reagan's first choice to be on the Supreme Court. Actually, it might have been the second choice after Sandra Day O'Connor, but he wanted Bork, and Teddy Kennedy and the Judiciary Committee, controlled by the Democrats, ran Bork out of town. Well, guess who was the replacement for Robert Bork? Justice Kennedy. And it's been Justice Kennedy who's been the swing vote in all of these votes having to do with gay marriage and the right of privacy and stuff like that. That's what I mean when I say we got borked. I think it was a mistake by Ronald Reagan not to run another justice in there just like Robert Bork. Not that there could be anybody like Robert Bork, because he was a genius, an absolute constitutional genius, which is why Reagan picked him. But he should have backed him, he should have followed through. What I'm trying to say here is The Republicans back down in these fights. The Democrats never back down in these fights. And you get senators like Lindsey Graham who say, well, he appointed Justice Sotomayor, that's his choice, so I'm going to go along with it. No, Teddy Kennedy didn't go along with it. Why do we do that? You see, and the problem with that is, and we'll get to this to presidential candidates in a minute because this kind of flows into that. The problem is when the Republicans don't put up enough of a fight, when the Democrats are fighting so hard, there is no real balance. The Democrats end up pushing further and further and further to the left, and the Republicans, because they're not really fighting, allow it to happen. Look at George W. Bush. 8 years he allowed people to call him a liar.
I know. I mean,
and he didn't say one word to defend his doggone self.
I mean, sadly enough, I think he gave up in the last few years.
Well, the problem is, when he gives up on himself, when he's the president and he is the leader of the Republican Party.
He gives up on America.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. And that's where the Republicans have been so woefully lacking.
You know, that's why I like Cruz. I hate to be, well, this guy is like a tiger boy. He doesn't stop. And there's a few others, which we'll discuss a little bit later, that you just got to like. These soft touches that are claiming they're Republicans, and they don't do anything. They don't get anything done.
No, and they won't. You know, I went through a list of them last night, including Jeb Bush. I believe John Kasich fits in that group. And I named a couple of others, but like Mike said, we'll get to that a little bit more in the next segment of the show. But this is, as we were talking a little bit before the show, a lot of Republicans think, well, this is it now on the gay marriage issue. That it's over. No, it's not over, and it's never going to be over. And it's never going to be over, first and foremost, because
a lot of people have it in their hearts another belief. So how is it ever going to be over? It will never be over.
And the other side is going to continue to push further and further and further.
And
they will guarantee that it will never be over.
The thing that amuses me is that the majority of the states that voted on it voted against gay marriage.
Including California.
Why do you think that thought in the minds of all people will be over? It just never will be.
All right, we're never going to be over either, too, folks.
What are we talking about?
That's right. All right, we're just getting started. Anyway, we'll be back after this short break. You are listening to the American Adversaries Drive.